This is a Chibson. Today we're going to meet 3 guitars that I honestly believe are Chibson killers. I recently got back involved with the Chibson debate because of the huge number of emails and messages I was getting from people warning me about new sellers on Facebook and Instagram, and also people selling on eBay. And the huge amount of additional videos there seem to be these days of people saying that these fake guitars are fantastic. I get an awful lot more emails and messages asking for my help with people that have had trouble with these things or with the buying process in China than I see positive videos online. But there does seem to be an awful lot more out there, so we need to balance the argument. And today, rather than just say to you all the pitfalls and downfalls of buying a Chibson, I figured the best way to encourage people not to bother would be to give you alternatives. And today I've got 3 killer alternatives that I believe represent much better value for money for you than any Chibson. Before I introduce you to those guitars, which you would have seen on my channel before if you're a long-time viewer, I just want to reiterate for those of you that are new, the story behind Greenie Moore 2. Yes, this is Greenie Moore 2. The reason being is Greenie Moore 1 was a guitar I bought from an online seller in China, and it came with a broken neck. There was a crack right behind the headstock, which was very difficult to fix, and if I hadn't been able to fix it myself would have meant that the guitar was unplayable, and certainly it wouldn't have been able to be set up properly. I got in touch with the seller when there was an issue, and I made them aware of the fact that there was an issue with the guitar. Despite the fact that the website that I bought it from offered what was supposedly buyer protection, the seller basically said I had no recourse at all, and it was tough luck. I would need to accept this guitar. They'd give me $20 off for the next purchase, or off of the guitar I'd bought as a refund for the cracked neck. As it happened, I managed to send them a copy or a link to my video unboxing Greenie Moore 1 and showing the damage. I strongly believe that the only reason that that seller even thought twice and sent me another guitar was because they realized and understood that I had a YouTube channel. What's more, I also believe that they were able to use my video unboxing to prove to the shipping agent that the guitar was damaged in transit, and hence I believe that they got all of their money repaid from the shipping agent in order to send me a replacement. Even though they knew this was a replacement, this came with a multitude of issues on it. The action is incredibly high and needs to remain so, because to lower the action would mean a complete fret job on this, because the frets are up and down like nobody's business. This was very, very difficult to intonate because of the poor placement of the bridge. I've had to replace the original pot metal bridge with a roller bridge that I got from Stu Mac, and even then that's as far back as it can be, and there's nut compensator in there so that I could get close to intonating this guitar. And they're just the beginnings of the troubles that people have in China. So anybody that tells you that they will get every single one of these out of the box and it will be a player and it will be a fun guitar to work on and to play is leading you astray somewhat, in my opinion. And it is just my opinion. Also, this headstock will not mean anything to Joe Public, only other guitar players. And the saddest thing is that other guitar players will instantly know that this is a Chibson. So what's the point? Let's meet the alternatives to buying a Chibson. So what we have here is the Harley Benton SC450, the Harley Benton SC550, and the vintage V100, all of which I have unboxed and demoed on my channel for you. So you can find the specifications for these guitars and Greenie Moore 2 in the links to videos down below if you're interested. Fundamentally, they all share a few things in common. They are all allegedly mahogany body, mahogany neck, rosewood fingerboard, maple cap, maple veneer. They've got 2 pickups and they all have the Gibson style volume and tone pots. They all have the 3-way toggle switch between rhythm, middle position and lead. The difference being is that the SC450 also has coil taps, and the V100 has got the Greenie Moore reversed neck pickup and turned magnet. That will sound slightly different in our sound tests. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about all the positives and negatives, including the Chibson, and we're going to talk about price, the setup and how they came out of the box, how each one of these plays, and you're going to listen to a sound test of the clean sound, direct sound, the crunch tone and the lead tone on each of these. And you'll be able to make your mind up at the end of that, just how much value for money each of these are. I'm also going to go over a few of the positive and negative points for each of these guitars to allow you to make an informed decision. The Chibson allegedly comes with Epiphone pickups, and actually in this instance, I believe that these really are Epiphones. I really quite like the sound of these pickups. Please don't mistake me telling you the truth about liking the tone of these pickups as me condoning or promoting the trademark infringements. That simply isn't the case, and that's a mistake that a lot of people make watching my original unboxing videos for a lot of these guitars. I will always tell you the truth, so as I unbox these, if I've liked them or I've liked elements of them, I've said so. But that doesn't mean to say that I've changed my opinion in any way, shape or form. I've always been against the counterfeiting. So these are Epiphone pickups. The V100, the vintage, has got Wilkinson pickups and Wilkinson hardware. The Harley Bentons have both got Roswell pickups and they've both got DLX hardware. The other things are the weight. This one weighs 3 kilograms, which is 7 pounds. The SC450 weighs 3.5 kilograms, which is 8 pounds. The fake and the SC450 are both 1.75 to 1.75 inches thick, whereas the SC550 and the vintage V100 are both standard Gibson 2-inch thick bodies, and they both weigh a little bit more at 4 kilograms or 8.5 pounds. Before I get into the prices, I think the one thing that you will want to know is what the playability out of the box and what these sound like, because to a guitar player, they're the most important elements. How easy are they to play and what's the sound like? So at this stage, we're going to go over and do a tone test comparison. On each of these guitars, I'm going to play them in each of the pickup positions, and I'm going to give you a direct tone, I'm going to give you a crunch tone, and I'm going to give you a lead tone. So let's go over and have a listen to the sound tests. Given those sound tests, you will now have a pretty good opinion of just how good each of these three guitars is as a legal, perfectly legal to own and to resell alternative to the Chibson. Before we talk about the price, which will be the crunch thing that helps you decide the best value, I just want to go over a few of the things in positive and negative for each of these. So in the positive for the Chibson, it is the fact that a lot of people, a lot of guitarists do have that absolute desire to have the Gibson logo on the headstock. And I understand that not everybody can afford that. And the Chinese make that available. And I always say just because you can doesn't mean to say you should. However, again, I'm not judging you. If you've had good experience with Chibson and you're happy knowing that you're playing a fake, that's up to you, entirely up to you. Another one of the positives about the Chinese guitars are that you can have them completely customized. You don't need to have the fake logo on there. You don't need to have any of the trademark infringements. So you can have an entirely custom built guitar with your own name on the headstock and all of your specifications, built for relatively little money, which is a positive. However, the fake is a fake, which means that it is illegal to sell, which means that it is illegal to resell. What's more, I've already explained to you that the buyer protection is really not worth the paper it's written on. I was very fortunate because I have a YouTube channel, but most people aren't. So you're really taking a roll of the dice when you buy these Chinese ones. And also, in my experience, I know they've got an awful lot better, which I explained in the previous video, but in my experience and from a lot of the emails and correspondence I get, people are finding that these are still coming with big issues. Generally, the pickups aren't great quality. The wiring is always very, very substandard and poor. And also many of these guitars don't intonate properly because of where they've misplaced the bridge, meaning the scale length never matches up to the bridge placement. They very, very often come with a cheap plastic nut, and almost always, and certainly all of the ones I've got, have come with frets that need re-leveling, which means that you can't lower the action without getting a lot of fret buzz. So they're the negatives about the Chibson. The SC450. Now this is the only one of the four guitars here that was sent to me where the person sending it to me, or the company sending it to me, didn't know it was coming to me and didn't know it was going to be reviewed by me. And this set up really, really nicely. It was almost in tune out of the box. And what's more, the setup, the action, and everything about this guitar was nicely set up. I can't fault, in my experience, the Thomann brand in any way, shape or form, and I've really enjoyed the Harley Bentons I bought before I got sent them to review. So this was really nicely set up, and the positives about this are the heel cut. And on both Harley Bentons, this heel is cut really, really tight to the body contour, and I like this body contour. And the fact that that heel is cut that way on this and the 550 means that you've got really good access for your hands to get right up to the top frets, which is something that you don't get on real Gibsons. You certainly don't get it on the Chibson, which is as close as direct copy as they can make to the real Gibsons. And you also don't get it quite on the vintage V100. So the heel cuts are positive on this. This comes in the cheapest, and so price is a positive for this one. And last of all, the fact that this one has got push-pull for each of the pickups to split these coils to give you a single coil sound, which makes this a very versatile instrument. On the downside, I would say that this has possibly got the least pleasing tone from the pickups, but it is a matter of taste, and I'm sure, having heard them, you'd have made your opinion up on these for yourself. So some of you will actually prefer these pickups to all of the others. Moving on to the SC550. Now, the quadruple A flamed maple top on this is outstanding, and as you would expect from a guitar that was sent to me for review, this came set up perfectly out of the box. It was pretty much in tune. The intonation was spot on. The entire setup of the action and the relief in the neck was brilliant. This is the only one of the four guitars with a bone nut, a real bone nut. And all of the hardware on this is good and solid. It's all DLX hardware. The tuning pegs keep good tune. Unlike the Chibson, I have to say that these are still quite wobbly and are not as reliable as the Harley Benton tuning and not as reliable as the vintage tuning either. The positives for this, as well as the SC450, are this lovely heel cut which makes access to the top frets really, really easy. And of course, I keep going on about it, look at that flame top, it's really beautiful. The only downside really to this is at 4 kilograms, 8.5 pounds, it is significantly heavy for holding and playing for 2 hours at a gig. So if that's going to cause you a problem, be aware that this is a good solid heavy guitar because it is 2 inches thick like a real Gibson. Finally, we've got the vintage V100. And this guitar again is quite a heavy guitar. It comes with all Wilkinson hardware. The tuners work beautifully. It comes with a tusk nut, similarly to the SC450. And it comes, this one is vintage and relict. I'm not a fan of the relicking, but this can be got in the same lovely finish that the other guitars come in. And one thing I will say for the Chinese in general, the gloss lacquer finishing is really good. And I've always been impressed with that. So the positives about this guitar are the reputation of vintage. People have been asking me to review a vintage for so long, and they seem very, very popular and people really love them. And also, I think that's because of the quality control. This one has the lowest action and is definitely the best setup out of the box, and it plays really, really nicely. But for one little quality issue, which is that it comes with the sharp frets. And I was very surprised, knowing that it was coming to me for a review, that this came out with sharp fret ends and a bit of fret sprout. That can happen to any guitar, but I wasn't expecting it. So that's our first negative with this. The other thing, of course, is yes, it is heavy, just like the SC550, but again, that's because it shares the Gibson 2-inch thick body. And also, as you can see, it doesn't have that really nice heel access. It's slightly indented compared to a Gibson, but it's still quite tough to get up to those top frets. Finally, and I have said it, I am not a fan of relicking, and this is not a great relic job, if I'm honest. The fact that this is a veneer top means that they really couldn't do a proper relicking job on the top without going through the veneer and ruining the guitar. And all of the rear relicking really doesn't feel and look all that great. And one of the things I've picked up on, some of you have commented on, and I was not all that impressed with, was the fact that the wood, the mahogany, that's a very light coloured mahogany. So the relicking job on this is not great. But there you have the differences, the positives and negatives for each of these guitars. But the question we started with was, are any of these Chibson killers? And I think the final piece in the jigsaw will be the price that'll tell us, because I think that these represent much better value even without taking price into consideration. The fact that they're in the same price bracket, but they're legal to buy, they're legal to own, and they're legal to sell on, which is really important. This is legal to buy and legal to own, but it's not legal to sell in the first place by the Chinese, and also for you to sell on, so you're saddled with it, no matter how good or bad it is. So let's talk about the price. The SC450 comes in the cheapest at 138 GBP. Then it's the SC550 at 217 GBP. Third is this, the Chibson. My website's down at the moment and I haven't got an exact price, but I believe I paid around 265 to 270 pounds for the Chibson. And finally, the vintage V100 comes in at 345 pounds, so it's the most expensive. Now that you know all the specs, all the prices, and you've heard a sound test, I hope you've got all the information that you need to decide whether you think that any of these three guitars behind me are Chibson killers. Personally, I think they are, and I really hope you do too. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informative. I hope it has informed your decision-making process if you're thinking about buying a Chibson. And I hope that you have, like I feel, found that the other three are very, very good legal alternatives. If you have enjoyed the video either way, then please don't forget to give us a like and a thumbs up, and maybe even share it with your friends. If you haven't already, it can't hurt to subscribe, and don't forget, if you do, click that bell icon and you'll hear every time I upload a new video, which is usually about twice a week. Thanks so much for watching. I really look forward to seeing you on the next one, and as always friends, in the meantime, you take good care.